Blood money has been a part of human history for millennia. From ancient times to present day, it has been used to settle disputes, avenge wrongdoings, and even buy freedom. In the ancient world, blood money, or weregild as it was known, was a system of fines paid to resolve conflicts. It was often paid by the guilty party to the victim's family in order to avoid legal action or even violence. This system was used throughout Europe, as well as in parts of the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. In the medieval period, blood money was used to ransom prisoners of war and to secure the release of hostages. It was also used to buy the freedom of slaves. In some cases, it was even used to purchase passage out of a country. In more recent times, blood money has been used to settle civil lawsuits. In some countries, it is even used in criminal cases, with the guilty party paying a fine to the victim's family in lieu of prison time. The concept of blood money may seem strange to our modern sensibilities, but its use throughout history shows that it has been a powerful tool for resolving conflicts. But is it justice? Stick around as we talk about the history of blood money and whether it still serves any purpose in our modern world. When money is paid to the family of a victim in exchange for not pressing charges against the offender, it is referred to as blood money. The concept of blood money has been around since the early times of human civilization, but its definition has evolved as our society has changed. In its earliest forms, blood money got its name because it involved the spilling of actual blood as punishment. It has its roots in the early Code of Hammurabi, which contained one of the first forms of lex talionis, or the law of retribution. This code contained the first written rule that allowed for retaliation for offenses. For example, a son's hand may be removed if he were to strike his father. The practice is mentioned in several religious texts. The Old Testament references the practice. It says, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. It is also referenced by the Quran, which says, the punishment of those who wage war against Allah and His apostle and endeavor to make mischief on earth is execution or crucifixion, or the cutting off of the hands and feet from opposite sides, or exile from the land. That is their disgrace in this world, and a heavy punishment is theirs in the hereafter. Islamic Sharia law allows blood money as an alternative to execution for murderers. In another example, blood money for murder was laid down in the legal code of the Inca Empire, the Code of the 12 Tables, and it remained in force well into the 20th century. The 12 Tables contained retaliatory fines in the form of livestock. For example, if a person broke a bone of a freeman, with hand or by club, he was required to pay a fine worth 300 asses. Over time, blood money has shifted in meaning. Instead of actually shedding the blood of the offender, it has become common practice for the offender to pay money to the victim or their family. The term is most commonly used with crimes of violence, such as murder, assault, sexual assault, and similar crimes. In some cases, it is an alternative sentence to the death sentence. It might also be a civil agreement, negotiated among the parties and enforced by the courts. In others, it is a form of traditional justice, informally arranged without legal sanction. In the early 1900s, blood money was a common practice in the United States. If someone was killed, their family could receive money from the murderer in exchange for not pressing charges. This practice was seen as a way to prevent violence and to provide families with financial compensation for their loss. Over time, public opinion about blood money began to change. People began to see it as a way for murderers to avoid justice. In the mid-1900s, many states began to outlaw the practice. While most states have outlawed restitution as an alternative to capital punishment for murderers, there are still many crimes for which restitution is a viable punishment. For many financial crimes, such as fraud, the convicted might have to pay restitution to those affected by the crime. In all of these cases, a civil trial is held in conjunction with a criminal trial. There does not exist any crime for which a person can avoid a criminal trial in favor of a civil one. There's also the concept of reparations, which are proposed payments to the descendants of slaves. Proponents of this believe it is a moral and ethical solution to the generational poverty of this population. But this presents an intractable problem. There is no clear mechanism to decide who would be eligible and how they would be identified. Would beneficiary status be based on the nation in which their ancestors resided? Would it be based on their skin color or economic status? Such questions have no clear answers. In the UK, there has been discussion about creating legislation for reparations for members of the Irish traveller community. The traveling community in Ireland faces incredible obstacles due to their perceived deviance that affects the group as a whole. Most of these challenges come from discrimination from the state and from mainstream society, as well as from within the community itself. In some parts of the world, however, the original intent of blood money is alive and well. In Somalia, the family members of murder victims are given 3 choices: pardon the killer, demand blood money, or perform the execution of the murderer themselves. Many choose the blood money, which in current Islamic law is worth the price of 100 camels, or roughly $20,000. The murderer is imprisoned while their family comes up with the money. If the murderer's family is unable to pay, the murderer will be executed. In Korea, blood money is still in use as well. Korean law combines civil law and criminal law, which allows a victim to choose to settle the crime with a monetary payment or to try the perpetrator in a criminal case. Many times, payment is chosen over criminal prosecution. As you can see, blood money is still practiced in some parts of the world, but it is increasingly seen as an outdated and barbaric practice. Blood money has a long history in our world. While it does provide relief to families of victims, it has some disastrous consequences from an equality standpoint. Why should rich people get to skirt punishment simply because they can afford it? This is one of the great things about the US justice system. For criminal cases, all are held equal under the law. If monetary compensation is necessary for victims, a civil case will be held which can result in restitution. In general, we should seek to remove the blood money practice from the entire world. Hey guys, thanks for watching the show. Make sure you give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Thanks and have a good one.